Okay, students, so we'll start with this new chapter. So I'll be sharing this material. Before you listen to me, I want you to go to read it. Okay, because yesterday only we finished chapter number 3. So you didn't have time. So I hope today you will have at least one glance over what they are trying to tell. Okay, because initially I don't want to start this chapter as it is. I want to take you through the inter, because these are all the concepts have been discussed at the inter level. I will show you. We will discuss what we have covered there. Okay, what is SA 315? Okay, we'll just have one quick glance. So in our next class, I expect you to go through this study material and then sit for my class. Okay, I want you to be prepared. Okay, chalo. So very beautiful chapter, materiality, risk assessment and internal control. In fact, heart of the audit is this particular chapter. At the intermediate level, what happened? No, they have, it is a very lengthy thing. And the way it has been designed, no, it generally creates a issue, because generally I come across a complaint of the students like that chapter number 5 or whatever, intermediate, this particular chapter. It's so tricky, so confusing, so things. Actually, it's very simple. So now what happened? No? They have given some components in the final. I'll show you how ICA is doing, what they are doing and all. But you please understand the concepts first. So let us start spending some time to go back to our inter and have a quick recap of what concepts we have learned there. Then we will come back here in the study material and understand, because let us make our foundation strong. So if I go back to the ICA, whatever their announcements and all, somewhere they have said the content of SA 315, SA 320 is covered in depth in the intermediate level. So only the application part of the essays will be discussed in the form of case studies in the final. So if you are thinking, okay, this is what they are going to follow, the answer is no. Because if you open your Q&A, suddenly you see that there are materiality related questions. But contents have not been discussed at the final level, because if you go to the study material, hardly 5 to 6 lines have been discussed about the materiality. But at least 3 to 4 questions you are going to see. Which question? Descriptive questions. So it's very important. That's why when I'm going to give you this chart, I will be giving you that content also, so that you can have a quick recap of what you have studied at the intermediate level and how to write the answers for the final. So we will go to the 300C. What happens? We know that we have got some group of standards, 200 related standards, talks about the responsibility of the auditor. Like what is your overall responsibility, what is your responsibility for documentation, fraud, non-compliance, communication with this TCWG, internal joint auditors. 300 speaks about the performing of the audit. Okay, so performing starts with the planning, then risk assessment, then materiality, then evaluation, performing of the procedures, evaluation of the evidence. Done. So 300, 315, 320, 330, 450. Okay, in between they have added SA 402, service organization, leave it. Then 500 talks about different types of evidences, situations, like what if subsequent events happen? What do you mean by an evidence? Okay, what you have got opening balance, you are the first time auditor. What if there is a going concern issue? What if because they are all subject, like it's not that they are mandatorily they will exist. Okay, some situations may not be there. And if you plan to use external confirmation, how you should do that external confirmation? If you plan to take sampling, you don't want to do 100% audit. See, this is mandatory. This is mandatory. But these situations can be, I can say, situational. That means it may exist, may not exist. So that standard may applicable to you, may not be applicable to you. Management, okay. Now, 600 series speaks about the human beings, like other auditor, your internal auditor. 620 talks about your expert. Again, this is also situational. Branch audit may be there, may not be there. Internal auditor may be there, may not be there. Expert you may have, may not have. But from 700 series, which is reporting, again it is mandatory. So 200 and 700 are mandatory for you. Then you go for other SRE, SAS, SRS and all. Okay, now let us focus on this particular set of standards, which is the mandatory for you. Okay, so this is also a mandatory thing. Only these two things are situational. Now, what does your SA 300 says? You need to plan. Have we covered planning? Yes, we have already covered in chapter number 2. How many concepts are there? For planning, 4 concepts. Okay, so now you have that. Now we will talk about essay 315. What is your essay 315? Generally, it is considered as very lengthy and difficult because so many elements are included. But if we remove it, it's actually a very simple. It is lengthy, but it is absolutely simple. Now, there are 2 elements to this. One is called assertions and internal control. Why it became lengthy? Because internal control element has been included in 315. That's why it became lengthy to you at the intermediate level. The moment I separate 2 elements, internal control I will separate and your essay 315 risk assessment I separate. And that chapter looks very simple to you. So, first we need to understand an element of assertions and then internal controls and then what is risk assessment. And then you will be very clear. So, when you talk about an assertion, there are 3 types of assertion. Now, what is an assertion and all we will discuss, because again in final also we are supposed to discuss. It's part of your study material. But I hope you remember in the intermediate that there is an assertion is the characteristics or it's a confidence statement of fact. Now, what is, because they didn't tell you what is assertion here. We have got 3 types of assertions called a class of transaction, account balance, and presentation and disclosure. Okay, its application part we will discuss later. That is just a recap. Okay, so for P&L item we have got 5 assertions, 4 assertions, and again 4 assertions for presentation and disclosure. So then we discussed about the COSO internal control framework, this cube, 5 components of internal control. So you have got control environment, risk assessment process, activities, monitoring, and information system. So what does your control environment include? It will have your 7 activities. See, what is the concept of a control component? See, students, till 1992, we didn't have any standard for controls. Followed, no? So that means it was very subjective. The way, like, for example, when standards on auditing came in 1935, before that there was no standards on auditing in the world. USA came first time, something called standards on auditing, so that we can ensure one consistency. Followed, no? It's the standard time. Like for example, okay, we are meeting every day at 7 o'clock. That is standard. We are standardized. Imagine if we are meeting anytime we don't know. It's going to create so much uncertainty. You cannot plan on anything. But the standard comes into picture. Okay, you can develop an expectation. What is standard? An expectation, a benchmark. So in 1992, okay, there was because people started to think about internal controls and all. So one committee was formed in USA. It was done by AICPA. It was done by your Institute of Internal Auditors. It was done by Institute of this Chief Financial Officer institution. Something is there, accounting board. So there were 5 institutions, CMA and all. They decided to work upon the internal control. So they formed a committee called COSO, Committee on Sponsoring Organization something, and they started to work on the internal control, and they came with one final document called a component of an internal control. That means if any organization, if the control should be good, there should be 5 elements present. And see, this is applicable to you also. It's not that only company has to follow it. Everywhere, the moment we talk about a concept called the discipline, is discipline not applicable to you? Are you not supposed to sit and prepare? That's a discipline. So whenever the word discipline comes into picture, whether it is a discipline of a first standard student or a military discipline or an organization discipline, see the logic. They identified certain components, very important elements. They said if you miss any one of these elements, no, your discipline is not there. We say you are indisciplined person. Your organization will not be able to prevent that problem. Now, what are those 5 components they said? Like for example, if I have to be alive, certain very important components should be there, no? Like heart should be there. Can I live without heart? Can I live without brain? Can I live without lungs? Can I live without say kidney, liver? See, there's something very important of. Without that, you cannot survive. If anyone goes for a toss, you have gone for a toss. Like this, I can say these are all high level components. Now, if I say control environment is like a brain, for a brain to survive, it need to have certain components, no sub-components. That is this. All the related components of brain they have given. Okay, like there are 5 components, 17 principles. Now those 17 principles, like if your brain has to be operating properly, what all the things you need to take care? See, do we have any such documents? Maybe they're at the medical science and all. But imagine if we come to know which all our important organs, how we can live longer, if we have to have brain. Okay, what all the factors we need to consider? Means pure nature, nature principles. If you don't have this, what is the problem? Now, the moment you get exposed to social media, somebody will tell eat this oil, somebody says do not eat this oil, somebody will say do this exercise, somebody says do not do this. See, we get confused. Imagine you get one very authentic document which can properly talk about your health. It can tell you, list out the principles. Beautiful, right? Then this 17 principles are split into 81 practices. So it is very deep. That means it is not just, it's one of the components. Like how can you protect your brain? From there are 17 principles. Out of 17 principles, some principles have been allocated to this. Some principles are allocated to this. Now, in that, say, for example, 4 principles, we have got 81 components. Like this, how do you implement it? Practically implement it. They have told those components. Like they have identified, okay, if this brain has to be done, then every 4 days you have to eat this grain, this moong dal, this chana dal. Okay, if your heart should be good, every 5th day you should be eating, say, banana. Like for example, I'm just giving one analogy to you. So can you imagine, students, how extensive this document must be? That means if somebody is planning, see, please see, we say that syllabus is faster. In fact, this itself can be one subject, not chapter. Then obviously, essay 315 looks very big. So what they have done, they have not brought entire elements there. They told out of that they brought this, so that tomorrow you will take internal control as your full-time profession. Are you not supposed to read this COSO framework? Obviously, Baba. If you want to take it as a full-time profession, you have to digest that COSO framework. But it doesn't look something new to you because it looks very familiar, because already at somewhere you have come across that framework. Because this is like ABCD. You are writing one Mahakavya, Mahabharata. It starts with learning ABCD, right? You say that I don't want to learn ABCD, and then how do you write something? How do you communicate? I hope you are clear. That's why this, since internal control framework is so big, it's part of your essay 315. So what they are trying to tell? They are trying to tell, giving one simple message. Look, Baba, there is a risk, and that risk has to be addressed by a control. Who has to establish the control? The management. How do you understand this control? Okay, take this as a guide and see whether those components have been implemented. Because if any one of the component has not been implemented, yes, you can identify that there is a control deficiency. Based on that, you plan your audit. That's why students having a very good knowledge about the components of interest. See, you need not have any in-depth knowledge, but at least you should know what is this component, from where it is coming, why we need to understand it. If this document was not there, if COSO framework was not there, you are in total darkness. You don't know how to evaluate internal control. But tell me, is it not a fantastic guide for you? So many people have made a profession out of this. They are living with this document today. Okay. So what are those 5 components? Control environment. I can say seriousness, tone at the top. Now you tell me, students, if you have to be disciplined, is it not the seriousness is the starting point? Because what I found out of my 8 years of teaching experience and being into this field, I always think why students fail and all. Somewhere one component I see, one is luck factor is also the question. It's not that you're always serious and okay, God also should help. That's why I always believe life is 50-50. 50 is inherent, systemic. 50 is our. And when it comes to us, right, what is the big element? What I find is the seriousness. Seriousness is connected to your motivation. Motivation is connected to money or something else. Okay, this is what I found out. Because the moment you take something casual, any business, if I teaching also very casual, someone has to take anything, whatever you want to pursue, take it very seriously. You bring seriousness on the table, okay, then hope for the opportunity. This is opportunity for you. I told you, and I missed to tell you, okay, I told God gives us opportunity to whatever we want to become. I just missed to tell you, one more big opportunity comes in the form of difficulty. Difficulty is also an opportunity. Ah, beautiful. Huh? What Einstein is telling. Sometimes we get some difficulties. But if you observe very closely, it is actually, it will offer us some sort of opportunities. And what is that opportunity? You have to figure it out. Anyhow, so there are communication and enforcement, commitment to the competence, okay, participation, assignment, having good HR policies, more like exclusive one. Because if you fail here in the seriousness, then nothing is going to come into picture. Okay, chalo. You are very good in, you are serious, your organization is serious, and first component is passed, the test. Now we will go to the second component. Are you good in doing risk assessment? What can go wrong? Are you doing that analysis? Then are you deciding your actions? Where should I focus? What type of actions I should be doing? Have you strategizing? This is your risk assessment process of the entity. Please understand, the word risk assessment process is different from risk assessment, and it is different from risk assessment procedure. There are three words: risk assessment process, procedures, RAP. I always call RAP. Then risk assessment process. Please understand, the difference is like this. Risk assessment is done, it's an activity done by auditor. How? By performing risk assessment procedures. So what happens in the process of a risk assessment, in the activity of a risk assessment, there are two components. One, you identify and you assess. Identification happens not with that third eye or sixth sense. For this, you have to perform risk assessment procedures, which includes your inquiry, observation, rechecking, calculations, okay, external confirmation. These are all the activities you perform to identify the risk. Assessment means you have to group that, assess, measure where exactly that risk is standing. Is it overall level or assertion level? Now, which assertion? Because when we talk about an assertion, this is what we started here. You see here, when you talk about assertion, it goes which assertion? Is it this assertion, this assertion, this assertion? There are say 5 assertions. Which of the assertion? Yes. Then, is the organization established an internal control for this? That's when now control knowledge comes into picture. What type of control is existing? For this, no, you need to go back to the components of internal control. And risk assessment process is an activity or a process conducted by the management. Why? To identify the risk and to establish the internal controls. Please understand, there are two elements: identification of the risk and establishing of the internal controls. So, what happens in the risk assessment process? The ultimate outcome, you see internal controls in the organization. Like for example, you should evaluate, you should put some internal controls. You should evaluate, okay, is my memory problem or this problem, and you should put appropriate internal control. What is my ultimate objective of risk assessment procedure? So risk assessment is to decide my further audit procedure. So should I trust you or should I test you? Okay, should I perform the test or should I only simply trust you? Okay, that's the ultimate objective of my risk assessment. Okay, whom should I call now? Like yesterday I shared you the attendance sheet. Today I'm going to speak to some of the students. Now, can you guess now whom I'm going to speak? Yes, I'm going to speak obviously to those people who are in red now. Green I may not speak because I know I can trust you. But I find a problem with those people. And you see the fantastic application of this concept, friends. Everybody can apply in their life. This concept of risk assessment, what we are learning in audit. And this is what I wanted to do. Okay. So wherever let us go here. So then second thing is the entities risk assessment process. I hope you have understood. So okay, I am not discussed. Then you are going to put the control activities like bank reconciliation, maker and checker, CCTV. These are all part of your control activities. Then you put the monitoring of the controls. Like, are you changing these controls from time to time? Is there any significant deficiencies? Is there any thief has been caught? how that thief entered the organization despite security is there. Then you upgrade your systems. And last is you are going to have an information and communication system where you are going to communicate what is required to be done when new employee joins, what they are supposed to do, what controls they are supposed to observe. So these are all the things you are going to have. So this is all about your related to the control. Anyhow, we are going to discuss this again in our final also now. Okay, now the second part is this is all about your internal control, the first part, which takes the lengthy portion. But if I come to the second part, identifying and assessing the risk of misstatement, it's a very small thing. You see, only 3 activities you are doing. That's it, done. It's a very small portion. Okay, but the crux is something like this. You need to understand the environment, because if I have to identify the risk, what you are trying to do? You need to identify the risk. Are you not supposed to understand the environment? Like, are you in a forest? Are you in a park? Are you traveling by bus? Because in each environment, the risk is different. Then you need to identify something called a business risk. What is business risk? Cash risk. Its another side is inherent risk. What is inherent risk? Accounting risk. Organization is concerned with the cash risk. Auditor is concerned with the accounting risk. Like in our example, who is management? You are the management. You are concerned with passing the examination. And I am concerned with you passing the examination. Sir, both are speaking same, exactly. But please understand here. Please understand, students. You are sole. But for me, there are so many students. Please understand this point. The important point. For you, this is the primary risk. But for me, it is the secondary risk. Same thing happens in the organization also. An organization faces cash risk. Somebody can steal their inventory. Somebody can steal their bank balance. And if they are going to lose the bank balance, they have lost it. For auditor, it is only an audit risk. That means it is an accounting implication only. For auditor, you are not the only one client. They have about 50 clients there. So they are bound with the professional code of ethics and so many things. So everything starts with the business risk, cash risk. So what auditor will see? He will see the accounting implication of it. We will discuss this, students. I will make you very clear. This particular, even though it takes time, I'm okay. Even though I'll fall short of the time, no problem. Because this is what I want to get inside your brain. The beautiful, excellent concept. Okay. Then you need to understand the objective, understand the control, and finally you need to respond. This is how the flow happens. Now, objective of 315 is to understand, identify and assess the risk by understanding the entity and the environment. So, what is your first job? Is to understand the entity and environment. Is it not the same thing we have done in SA 540? If I have to audit estimates, is it not that first I need to understand the environment of the organization, which financial reporting framework is applicable? Is it not that I should be understanding the internal controls? Like, this is what they said, how management does the estimates, how they will identify. They are all part of internal controls. Now, perform the risk assessment procedures. What is that? Inquiry, observation, etc. And then identify and make an assessment. Okay. How to understand the entity? Is there any guideline? Definitely. They say that if you want to understand any entity, first you understand the industry factors. Okay, I can give you an analogy. What is your industry? Chartered accountancy. Okay, then see, you are not a part of an ICSE board or CBSE board, or it is not a banking examination. It is not your any interview. It is a CA exam. So first I need to understand what is that industry factor. Okay, what type of regulators are there for you? Okay, then I should come to the nature of the entity, who you are. First, I need to understand your environment first. In which environment you are into. Because then only I can do a better risk assessment. To tell you, okay, I'm so many feelings are coming to me when I'm explaining you this chapter. I'm so much, what is that? I cannot explain, like I cannot explain my feelings. I feel so much for this particular chapter. I will tell you why we need to understand the environment first. I'll give one example to you about my personal experience. If I'm talking to you, why I'm talking to you today, I'll share one experience to me. First of all, up to BCom, I think I have told you also, I had no clarity what should I be doing, because my clarity was very clear: do BCom and enjoy college life. And it was Thursday, Tuesday evening, last BCom examination. My father asked me first time question: what you will do next? Till that time, that question never came to me. Okay, so there were three options: CA, MBA, and MCom, because I wanted to get into teaching. My father was a professor. Anyhow, so I told you that I have taken a chit in front of the God, because when we are truly confused in life, we should trust that source of power. So CA came, I got into, but I did my homework. I simply did not put the chit. I went and spoke to some chartered accountant. I saw the question papers at that time. In internet was beginning. Like for me, it was totally new, internet and all. At that time, I went there. I spoke to people. I spoke to my cousin who was doing CA. Finally, I got into the CA course. Now I will tell you what exactly happened. Since all these decisions took time, there was a delay when I joined the coaching. Okay, already coaching has started, because again, no, there were no no coaching only. One sir was teaching in Mangalore, so I joined. Already some 15 to 20 days were over. Anyhow, I took. Then I started to read the study material for the first time, because this coaching was only taken for practical papers, not for theory papers. I don't know, students, whether I have shared this experience with you or not. See, for theory, we have to read it ourselves. So I took the study material. Which one? Our audit. In Inter, we had audit. You see, students, I started to read that study material. This is of story of 2003. And I started to develop one feeling, okay? Very strange type of feeling, because till BCom, see, we had a very good guide. Like in the classroom, they will write the notes. You come home and read that notes. Okay, and you go in the examination. First of all, you know what type of direct question they will ask. Whatever you remember, go and write it and come back. Finish. Done. Fantastic. 90 marks in audit in BCom. Now, when I started to read, no, terms like assertion, that language was actually different. Students. Follow? Now, I see who is there to guide, who is there to tell. First of all, I did not know how to read that book. First of all, okay. Then what happened? I made one decision that I will, since BCom I have scored 90 marks by reading my study book notes. So I took that notes, because I had my notes, and started to prepare from the BCom notes. Now, if someone is not connected to chartered accountancy course, they can clearly figure out. Okay, see, I am a very meritorious student in BCom, always first in always 5 years of my college life. Because so much hard work I used to do. I used to study. Okay, enjoy also at the same time. College life, all functions, everything I used to enjoy. I was into everything, but I was focused on the preparation. Now, can you see one disaster is waiting for me in the examination? And can you see that disaster? I'm reading BCom notes and preparing for CA inter examination, not understanding who is ICA. Very clear cut students, one big disaster would have been waiting for me. I didn't knew that there is one disaster waiting. Now I will bring the element of luck. See, that luck I feel should have come from here, because who told me to do CA? One mysterious force told me to do CA. Because in that chit, if MCom would have come, because MBA had already got a seat. If MBA would have got, I would have been working in one company now, not talking to you. If MCom also would have come, I would have not been talking to you. I would have been talking to some graduates, BCom college students. But today, if I'm talking to you, all thanks to that chit. And more importantly, someone avoided that disaster. See, the luck guidance comes from sources, and we should appreciate and identify, recognize that. Okay, we should not say that no. We need guidance in our life. Okay, what happened in that coaching? There was one student, okay, with whom I developed a friendship and all. One day I went to his house. Only once I went. Why I went, I don't know. Okay, he invited, I went there. Now, okay, I went there, that's fine. Second thing is, I went to his bedroom where he had stacked his books and all. First of all, why I went to his bedroom, I don't know. So who told me go to his bedroom, I don't know. Third, on his table, there was one spiral binded book. Now, that book could have been anywhere. It could have been inside the cupboard. But why at that point of time, when I went there, it was on that table? I don't know. I picked that book only, a spiral binded book. Why I picked? I don't know. By that time, you could have called me. This coffee is ready. Please come. I could have kept that book and gone home. I turned the page. Okay, it is the J.K. Shah book on Q&A compilation. Simple, only Q&A, nothing, no theory, nothing, only Q&A compilation, like what I have given, on Q&A. And I started to read the first Q&A. Okay, it is something that there was an auditor, he went there, this happened, that happened. And as an auditor, what he will do? The moment I started to read the content, what it is, for the students, one, I can say something like a spark came inside me. That tick sound, no? That you feel. When that spark comes to you, you feel that, you know that. Some sort of spark came, and first time I thought in my life, is this audit? I never knew. I thought, is this audit? From where I should get that perspective? Who told me? Which human being told? Nobody. The circumstance is like an eye opener. I thought, is this audit? I asked myself. And I took this book with me. I told, please give me. I made a Xerox. I started to study that. I don't know when it was amended, when it was prepared. Is it up to date? Those questions were irrelevant. Huh? Please understand that. It could have, God knows when that book was prepared. Have they included the latest examination question, latest amendment? None of the questions I asked. But for me, that book is more like a spark. And it gave me a totally different perspective to the subject. And I started to see audit. That's why, I left. I was teaching FR, I was teaching AFM. Okay, I wanted to teach. I was into so many. Why I left everything and kept this? Because this particular subject is inside my heart, not near to my heart. I really enjoy, because I say, if anything has changed my direction, it is this subject. This is that pillar. Okay. Now I started to, and you see the spark, what it can do, what power it has got now. It will translate this energy into other subjects also. The way I started to see other subjects also got changed. Otherwise, I was looking like a BCom subjects only. I started to look at every questions like a different way. Okay, this is how it's going to happen. Okay, this is all. See, by default, I'm a hard worker. Please understand, students. I'm very hard worker. If I want, I will sit and study. I say I was like Murti Pratishthapana. No, this is what is my nature. If I sit, I will sit. Okay, but just hard work is your 50%, no, Baba. You need that 50% luck also somewhere. And what is the outcome of all these things? You see, students, you may not, everybody will have a dream. And it can so possible that in that dream you must be sleeping, and in that dream you must be seeing one more dream. That is called a dream's dream. In my dream's dream also, I was not expecting. Okay, I just wrote the exam. I was thinking I will clear the exam. Then the hopes will get, no. I secured 35th rank all India level. See, from a remote place. Okay, Mangalore, no guidance. Okay, some sort of, anyhow, our own style of preparation. But you see, you get national wise. Okay, I got recognized. Like, okay, I secured a rank. Now, see, behind this rank, did this book cost that rank? This book is one of the final factor. Please understand. If I have to go back, I have to go back from my 10th. The amount of hard works I'm putting, I'm doing so many things. See, that's why each one of you have been putting hard work from the time you have gone to the school. You are comprehending, you are reading. See, something can give you as a final touch-up. No, I can say this is my final touch-up. Now, if I have to secure it, there is a luck. This is the first question. You know why I faced one very first question in my first interview. Otherwise, again, I would not have been talking to you students. You see the luck factors, where I will go, what I will do. My first interview was this company, very first interview in the campus. That tobacco and all, they do make, no, tobacco and all. I'm not recollecting the name. That starts with T only, I believe. Okay? It's a very big opportunity. And the very first question, I was prepared for question like, please tell me about yourself. So I was prepared. But even without asking anything, the very first question I faced him in the first interview ever, why you did not get ranked in the final? Total bouncer for me. I don't know why I didn't get. Why? How did that person ask me? Because he saw my interview secure, but why you didn't get in the final? Later, after a long period, I realized why I didn't get through. Because the moment I came to intermediate, I registered for CS. So I completed my CS intermediate in the 2005 only. Within next two attempts, in the first attempt I cleared. So entire energy and focus went in clearing CS intermediate and nothing. I studied only for final only for 6 months. Imagine if this is CS effort, then okay, I'm till CS inter only, final yet to pursue. I want to take revenge now. So I'm waiting for good time to take revenge on the company secretary. Anyhow, so my entire energy gone, focus gone here. Imagine if this would have gone to CA final again. Maybe I would not have been talking to you. I would have been joined in some company and gone somewhere else. But whatever. So where were we? Because understanding of the environment is the first factor. Second, you need to understand the entity. Now, who is that person? What is their business operation? What type of ownership structure? How much cash flows they have got? How their financing activities are incurred? What is their accounting practices? Okay, what is their objectives and the business risk? And then, okay, then this are so many factors you need to consider for identifying the business risk. Okay, and how it will help you to establish the frame of reference, etc. So this is all about your understanding of the entity environment. But the second element is internal control. How you will understand internal control? Now comes this element. You need to understand the nature and characteristics of internal control. That means internal control is established for 4 areas. Already in 610 we saw. Then it has got inherent limitation. Very famous question for the intermediate. Inherent limitations of internal control. And then we need to understand the components of internal control. Now, since this element has been added here, this standard looks very big. But the moment you remove this component of internal control and study it independently, this standard is very simple. So once you have understood the environment, entity, and then you understand the internal control, now you are in a better position to analyze the risk. Like for example, students, who you are, I don't know. But the moment I start to talk to you, I understand that you are writing ACA examination. Okay, I understand about you. I understand about your practices. Like, are you attending the classes? Are you writing the test? Now tell me, student, am I not in a better position to make your assessment? Can't I form an opinion on you? Yeah, imagine I don't know anything. What is happening? This is my big problem. Till all the 8 years, I was a signboard faculty, only direction. But for the first time, that's why I'm telling you, I'm seeking your support, students. I seek your support because without your support, I cannot do that. I want to become a GPS faculty. This is what I prayed God also. Please make me that GPS faculty who will not only show the sign which direction to go, but who will also measure where exactly you are. This is the effort I'm trying to put now. For this, no, I need to understand your controls, what is happening at your end, okay, so that I can identify the risk and I can advise you better. Okay, new thought, new way of doing. Let's see where it takes me. Okay, now you need to perform. So after you understand, you perform the risk assessment procedure. What is that? Inquiry, analytical procedure, observation, discussion. Now you talk to internal auditors, TCWG, employees handling in-house process. With this, you are in a better position because after inquiry, you will be a better position to identify the risk. Now the third step is to identify and assess ROM. What do you mean by identification? You need to identify overall level or assertion level. What is overall level? I told you, like Gabbar Singh, he says, I will rob anyone. No, you don't know whom he is going to rob. If you have got health issues, I cannot tell you on which examination day you may have stomachache. So what you should do for overall level? Okay, that is told in SA 330. But for assertion level, that means which subject you may have problem. In one subject, do you have a memory problem? Do you have an articulation problem? You have a time management problem? I can say these are all more like assertions. Subjects are more like items of the financial statements. So this is where you can actually make a difference. Similarly, this is where auditor can come. If you can tell, if you can pinpoint the risk exists here, you are in a better position to identify and address that risk. Okay, so you need to identify the risk. Okay, this is called assessment. identification of the risk, check whether they are pervasive, means whether they are overall, related risk to the assertions. If not overall, that means it must be assertion level, and consider their probability, chance, and consider their magnitude, percentage of occurrence, probability of occurrence, and their impact. This process is called risk assessment. And who is doing risk assessment? Auditor is doing it. What is risk assessment process? For this, we have to go back to the components of internal control. Risk assessment process includes identifying business risk. What is business risk? Cash risk. Looking at their impact, how big this can be, what is the probability of its occurrence, and establishing the internal control. Who is doing risk assessment process? Management is doing risk assessment process. Risk assessment is done by the auditor. How? By performing risk assessment procedures. What does your risk assessment procedures includes? Inquiry, observation, analytical procedures, etc. I hope students you're very clear with these concepts. It's very interesting also. Yes. Then comes the materiality. Done. We are done. Okay. Then we have to identify the significant risk. We always, yesterday only, let's say 540 only we came across. How many types of significant risks are there? There are 6 types of risk. One is fraud risk, complexity of transaction, related party transaction. See, these are all things have been discussed at the inter. Related party you don't have in the final, only chart is given. Estimation uncertainty. Yesterday in 540 we learned that is also significant risk. And what you're supposed to do? You see alternative assumptions, have they taken? Do they have the ability and intention to carry out that? Yesterday we learned, no? You need to develop your own range estimates. Now, significant transactions outside normal course of business and recent development in taxation, accounting, regulatory changes, etc. These are all 6 significant risks. Very famous question in the intermediate. In final, they are not going to ask you. Okay, but they will ask you applications. So that's why we are discussing. That's why I told you I will spend time here. Because they are going to ask you, because the chances are very high that in the intermediate you may not have understood it. You might have skipped this chapter because of its lengthiness. You might have seen only from important examination question. No, I want you to get that flow, understand what is risk assessment, okay, and get that concept. Now comes to 320, because unless you have identified the risk, you will not be able to set the materiality, because risk and materiality are interconnected. So now they talk about materiality in a planning and a performing audit. So primarily they talk about 2 types of concepts of materiality: planning materiality, performance materiality. Remember this terminology, because in examination they can tell the word called planning materiality. Now planning materiality is totally different from performance materiality. Okay, we will understand that. But before that, I will tell you one example. What is materiality? I can call it as a limit, a threshold. Above, it is important. Below, you ignore. Always remember this principle. Otherwise, no, this particular chapter looks a bit confusing. Materiality is a level, what you set yourself. Above that, you consider important. Below that, you ignore it. You see, this concept you apply everywhere. So materiality can be, okay, let's go. I'll explain you at that time. So what exactly happens in the materiality concept? Now, what is your objective? Is to apply the concept of materiality. Which, how many types? 2 types. One is called a planning materiality, and this is called a performance materiality. Now, what is that you need to do? Determine the materiality and the performance materiality. See, they don't call it, they may call it only materiality. But if they are calling performance, then they will always use this word. So I hope you are clear, students. So either they may tell materiality or planning materiality. The other type of materiality is performance materiality. Always they use the word called performance materiality, because this is the subject matter of this particular audit. How to fix it and revise the materiality. Now, overall, they can also call it by another word called overall materiality. Planning materiality is also called overall materiality. I can also call strategy plan, overall strategy, and then plan. We can give one connection. Now, what is overall materiality? This is the overall, while establishing the overall strategy. Please understand, the auditor shall determine the materiality. Okay. Now, 1 minute. Just a minute, because before giving an example, let me see where I can see that word. Okay, let me explain, because anyhow you have studied this. That let me come to that para, then only explain. So, what is the overall materiality? It's a percentage often you apply to a given benchmark, and then you see. Okay, I can give you something like this also. Sure. Like from your point of view only, I will tell you. 100 is the benchmark. Correct? Any examination happens for 100 marks. Now, is I say applying considering one level of materiality. What is materiality? Perfection. Now, yes, they apply one percentage. How much percentage they have applied? 50%. They apply to a benchmark and they expect some level of perfections. No mistake. And how much is the level of perfection they are expecting? Only 50%. So if you are perfect up to 50% and above, they will consider, they will value. Otherwise, if you are below 50%, they will ignore. Okay, I can give another example. You go to say eat one masala dosa. Now imagine students, do you have a certain expectations? Do you have some benchmark? Do you have some standard? Yes. Like what is that standard? Masala dosa should be crispy, it should be having nice, salt should be proper, potato should be properly baked. Imagine they will give you masala dosa which is totally over roasted, it has become very black. Will you accept it? No, because see, it is imperfect form. But the level of imperfection is more known. So to what extent you will accept the perfection? That is called a materiality. Now it is slightly over roasted. Will you accept it? Yes, yes. Why? Because that's why. Materiality is the judgment. You don't have any standard to measure it. It's just a matter of judgment. Okay. So when you talk about this masala dosa, the masala dosa could have been over, or what they could have done. There are two types of mistakes could happen. One, single big mistake, or small mistakes. Both you are going to consider. Like one single mistake means either it is over roasted or the bhaji is stale. That what bhaji they have put, no 2 days back bhaji they have put. It is you cannot eat it only. Or they have put too much salt in the batter also, in masala also. Now you tell me students, in all the three cases, are you going to eat this masala dosa? No, you are going to reject it because it doesn't meet your expectation. So this is called one single item which is very big enough to influence your decision. Like in the balance sheet, okay, 500 crore cash do not exist only. That is a big material item. But that materiality has come because of one item only. One item is going to influence your decision. Or alternatively, see, this is simply bit over roasted, potato not bit boiled, salt bit more, okay, some taste of this thing. Now, are you happy with this? No. Why? Because you don't have a single reason to reject that masala dosa. But some small problem here, some small problem here, some small problem here. Now, cumulatively, are they not going to influence? Will you come and eat next time this masala dosa in that hotel? I don't want to eat. Why? Because you cannot explain it. This is what your what is that called? Rameshwaram Cafe person owner says. Fantastic observation. They said if the customers don't like, when because of these small reasons, they will never come and tell you that there is a problem. See, if it's totally wrong, then they will complain. How to eat this over roasted masala dosa? How to this bhaji is not good? They will complain. But when the small things goes wrong, no, they will never complain. But next time they will not come to you. Beautiful. Or next time they will not order. How true it is. You see, one small principle the Rameshwaram Cafe owners found out. Then what they did, they incorporated their principles there. There's small things which the customers don't complain, but customer wished things could have been there. They incorporated and see their sales. So this is also another level of materiality. When you are going to aggregate them, they are going to cross your threshold and influence your decision. Followed, no? That means, okay, I can say in one subject only somebody do not they score say 38, 35. Gone. No, you didn't. You scored 42 here. Another thing, but overall you could not score 50%. So I can say like you don't have a problem with one, but some problem in this subject, another problem there subject. I hope you are able to connect students. This is the concept of a materiality we are going to talk. Now, what should be that benchmark? Profit before tax, turnover, total assets, equity. You decide. Now, on what basis you are going to decide? Which factor the users are looking for? Which item they are focused? What is the nature of entity? Ownership structure, volatility. So that's why it is different. Because if two people go to eat masala dosa, one person is focused on crispiness, another person is focused on the taste of the masala. So we cannot have a single benchmark for everyone. There can be different benchmark for different types of people. So on what factors you will choose in your audit? That is why it depends upon the elements of the financial statement, items on which the users are focused. Okay, so for someone who is focused on the crispiness, a bit more crispy, no, they will not accept it. But another person says, okay, Baba, leave it. No, that's why student, there is a lot of professional judgment involved here in fixing of the materiality level. Now, what is the specific materiality? Under certain circumstances, there are one or more particular class of transaction. Misstatements can be less than the amount which is reasonably, which can influence the decision of the user. Okay, I can give you something like this also. One more example. And what is that factor you consider for determining specific materiality? Let me complete and then let me explain. Whether regulation and applicable FRF affect the user's expectation, key industry disclosures, and attention is focused on particular aspect of a business called a new acquisition. Okay, remember there's a Q&A on this. And the third one, they are talking about something called a specific materiality. This is solely to detect individual material misstatement to carry out. That aggregate of individual misstatements may cause the financial statement to be materially misstated. So this will determine the nature, timing, extent of the audit procedure. That means performance materiality is going to define your efforts. I will give you an example explaining three types of materiality with your case only, so that understand. So SA 300 talks about three types of materiality. One, overall materiality. Now, what is your overall materiality? Out of 600, you are supposed to secure 300 marks. Finished, right? So 600 is your overall total asset value. Okay, total value of the balance sheet. Let me assume. What is how to find out the materiality? Materiality is like this: benchmark. So it can be total asset value. So how many items you have got? 6 items you have got. What is the total asset value? 600 into they applied 50% benchmark. So how can I say your overall materiality to pass the CA final examination is 300 marks. Above this level, recognition comes. Below this level, they ignore you. This is how the concept of materiality works, right? Up to benchmark, any transaction below that in audit, you ignore it. If any mistakes happen below 300, in any bit below the materiality, you don't call it materially misstated. You say it is misstated, but it is not materially misstated. It is not going to influence the decision of the users. Please understand. Only above that level, only going to affect the influence in the decision of the users. So you become CA only when you cross 300 threshold. Then only somebody will recognize you and they will influence their decision whether to hire you or not to hire you. Okay. The second type of materiality they discussed about something called a specific materiality. And the third thing they discussed about a performance materiality. Okay, I will give one small example to you. What is performance work? Now imagine you are an engineer. You have got fantastic knowledge of you're excellent in mathematical calculation. That means AFM you are excellent. Followed, no? And DT, IDT also excellent because we have got some exposure. IBS is a club of everything. Now, the only two subjects you don't like is your accounts and audit. Why? Because you are an engineer coming into CA. For example, let me assume you are coming from a different stream and you don't like these two subjects. Follow? Now, you tell me, since you know very well about 4 subjects, Is it possible, students, that you score 100 out of 100 in AFM, DT also you sit and study, 100 out of 100 you score, IDT also you sit and study, 100 out of 100 you score, and you are not even opened the book related to odd accounts, FR you scored 0. You don't know, maybe with the luck factor here and there 1 mark you must have got, because out of 30 MCQ any you take, maybe somewhere you must have got. For timing, let us assume. For theoretically, we will make an assumption, because I told you assumptions are very important. Your audit also you scored 0, and your IBS also you scored 0. Now, first thing, did you achieve your overall materiality? Did you score 300 marks? Yes, because when you present tomorrow to an employer, will you show your mass card or will you show your membership certificate? You will show your membership certificate. And in the membership certificate, will they write all this story? No. Are you a chartered accountant? Yes, sir. I am a chartered accountant. First, see, being a chartered accountant, anybody would expect you to be expert in two subjects, accounts and audit. You know accounts, 0. You know audit, 0. What you are doing? Signing the financial statement. Baba, this is a big risk, no? Somebody can have this strategy. And tomorrow you may be a chartered accountant, not knowing what is accounts and audit. And tomorrow you will bring disrepute now. Because people will say, okay, maybe somewhere somebody ask one journal entry. And you use your whatever accounting knowledge you have and you say depreciation account debit to cash. Everybody will laugh. And they say, who is telling this journal entry? A chartered accountant is telling. It will come in the newspaper also tomorrow. The chartered accountant is telling this type of journal entry. Hey, Baba, see, you don't want to practice accounting, you don't want to practice audit, leave it. But don't call yourself chartered accountant when you talk about journal entry, since you don't know. That's why now I say also understood, oh, this type of risk is there. So that's why, no, what did they do? No, they said, look, Baba, we will do one more thing. We will bring one more level of materiality called 40. You get minimum 40 for one subject. Minimum 40 you have to get for every subject. Aggregate only 300. It doesn't really matter which subject you scored what. When you talk about aggregate, does it matter? No. Now, I will call this as performance materiality. Now, you tell me, student, whoever that student may be, are they not supposed to spend at least 40% of their time on every subject? They have to. And in this process, from whichever background you are coming from, you might have been a doctor coming into CA, engineer or space scientist coming into CA, don't matter. Won't you understand what is accounting? What is audit? You will understand it. But why? Because 40% of your energy you have devoted to learn this. This is what they say, that this overall materiality has to be distributed to the items of the financial statement, and you have to set another level of materiality. And then you decide how much, which item to audit or not to audit. Otherwise, what can happen, students? Okay, example, I can say like this. You have got a fixed assets, 2000. You have got inventory, 25 crore. Now you tell me, which one you should focus? You should focus your audit on this. As compared to fixed assets, okay, what is your total of the balance sheet? Say 2025 crore. And your materiality level is say 10%. That means mistake should not happen more than 10%. Now, 10% mistake, okay, what is your total level of materiality? 20 crore. That's the benchmark you fix. Now tell me, 20 crore mistake happens in inventory. That means out of 25 crore inventory, 20 crore is 0, not existing. Now, will you ask management to pass the journal entry? Management can always argue with you, no, sir, look at our balance sheet. 2,000 crore balance sheet. Is 20 crore material? Not material. So, they may say, we will ignore it. But please understand, you are preparing general purpose financial statement, no. That means this financial statement is not only used by the investors, they are used by the bankers, employees, government. Now, can't you give this financial statement to a banker and take a working capital loan above 5 crore? They see, oh, auditor signed it, fine. How much is the value of inventory? 25 crore. Chalo, we will give you 80% of this inventory value as a working capital loan. And tomorrow they realize out of this 25 crore, 20 crore inventory do not exist only. You know, they will not catch that inventor, management, they will catch the auditor. They say, what type of certification you did there? That's why, students, performance materiality makes us to check every item of the financial statement and fix one more level of materiality only for that. So I may decide out of this 20 crore, I may put 18 crore for this, 2 crore for this. I say that in this, no mistake of above 2 crore should be permitted. I hope you are clear. So this is a concept of performance materiality. Now, what is specific materiality? I can give one more example which is applicable to you. That is your SPOM. Do you have a SPOM exam? Yes. How much you need to secure? Sir, 50 per subject. Aggregate, no concept. Minimum aggregate, no concept, sir. We have to score 50 marks. This is called specific materiality. This is that part they are talking here. That means depending upon economic, okay, depending upon the attention, financial reporting framework, they may bring certain items for which a separate level of materiality will be established. And it has got no connection to overall, no connection to performance. Means 50 means 50. Like for example, I can give you from audit point of view, you are an export oriented organization. Now you tell me, students, which is that one item in the financial statement on which your government is always keeping an eye, how much exports you are doing. Now you tell me, can you apply the overall performance materiality concept to this? No, you have to give a special attention. Specific attention you have to give only for this item because you know government is watching this. So you may fix a totally different materiality only for this item. That's why we call them specific materiality. These words don't exist, specific materiality. Okay. But if you read the study material, they have told it is specific for the items. I hope you got the overall understanding of this. Okay. How to fix it now? Now, from time to time, you may have to revise. Like if you come across new acquisitions happen, labor unrest, introduction to the new product, new regulatory requirement. Yes, you may have to revise your material. Done. See, so simple. Why I have to read it? Because I have to refresh your internal knowledge. Because these questions we are going to find in your test your knowledge. So institute told we will ask you MCQ, but they can ask you descriptive also. They would not have asked you descriptive if this question was not there in your illustration and in your MTP. Okay. The last one is your essay 330. I think students today we will study only this much. Yeah, because these are all heavy concepts. In the next class, I expect you to go through the study material, read once, then you sit and listen to me and you see how beautiful you get connected. Now, what is your 330? You have to respond now. In 315, you have identified two types of risk, overall risk, assertion level risk. Now, in 330, you need to respond to the overall risk, respond to the assertion level risk, and check whether you got the evidence. Okay, what is your response to the overall risk? Like, for example, health. What is your response? Be alert. Don't, during examination, don't eat ice cream. Okay, don't get wet in the rain. See, these are all the overall responses because you have to be careful. Observe, monitor, get the best team, bring an element of unpredictability, bring better supervision. Like if he is telling I'm going to rob anyone, you cannot figure out like whom they are going to do. So make an analysis of the accounting policies and see whether what type of which type of rich person can have. So you can have an overall type of response. That's why this standard do not talk about it. This is the only answer you need to write for a risk at the financial statement level. Financial statement level, overall level, or overall risk. But our true things comes when we talk about the risk at the assertion. Because students, this is what you can control. Can you control ICAI? Can you predict which paper they will give difficult, like AFM came this time, no? Can you predict? No. That is your overall risk now. On which day strike is going to happen? Which day government is going to ban corona? You see, 2020 May attempt, first time even I realized. Getting one attempt itself is opportunity. Beautiful. See, we don't realize what God gives. We feel okay, there is an attempt and we'll go and write. Don't you think, students, getting an attempt to write an examination itself is an opportunity? If you don't know, then go to the May 2020 people. Ask their experience. They literally got mad when the attempt was cancelled. Yeah. I know them. I spoke to them. It's so much disturbing. And that's why I told you, when we lose only when we realize. Okay, whatever. So now, response to the overall risk, it is not in our control, which is the 50%. Now let us focus ourselves on that another 50% which we can control. That is your response at the assertion level. So what is your response at the assertion level? For ROMM at the assertion level, there are only one response called further audit procedure. So what is your further audit procedure? You have to decide the nature of further audit procedure, timing of procedure, and extent of procedure. Now, what do you mean by nature? Nature means what? What is that procedure? There are only two procedures which is recognized by the government of India. It is called a test of controls or substantive procedure, because audit is not an investigation. Second, you have to decide, when should I do it? Should I do in the interim period? Should I do at the end of the period? Or should I do it after my 31st March is done? That decision is called a timing. Extent, to what extent I should be trusting the internal control. This depends upon the materiality, risk of misstatement. Should I use CAT tools? Should I do 100% audit? Should I do sampling? This is called extent. And at the strategy level, you decided the overall materiality. At the planning stage, you decide the nature, timing, extent of further audit procedure, including you will explain. This is what one of the examination question came. The auditor planned that he will use sampling, but which method of sampling he is going to use, when he is going to do that, he didn't document in the plan. Wrong. Why? Because when you are doing audit plan, you need to consider the nature, timing and extent of the procedure. Am I going to do it this way? Am I going to use sampling? If yes, which method? Okay, how many number of samples I expect to use? Especially students, planning takes a lot of time. It's very detailed. And they said, whatever audit procedures you choose, it should have a link to the risk. Now, very fantastic sentence. They say, in deciding further audit procedure, because everything starts first question, which procedure should I do? And there are only two procedures, test of control, substantive procedure. You see the point here. In deciding further audit procedure, auditor shall consider the reason for assessment given at the assertion level. I doubt anybody would have understood what they are trying to tell. Please see here. In designing the further audit procedure, auditor should consider the reason for assessment given at the assertion level, considering the inherent risks and the control risks. Okay, this is what we are going to study in chapter 4. What is inherent risk? What is control risk? And obtain more evidence for the higher the auditor's assessment. Now, what is the reason you have given for the assessment of ROMM? Because if you have to decide your further audit procedure, you must have identified and understood the risk in 315. Because ROMM assessment happens at 315 level, whether it is an overall risk or an assertion level risk. ROMM is also called assertion level risk. Please understand, students. ROMM is not an overall risk. ROMM is an assertion level risk. So when you have to address an assertion level risk or when you have to address an ROMM, there are two elements. One, or you can do test of controls, or you can ignore it and do substantive procedures. Now, what you should do, that depends upon the reason. The key word here is the reason. What is that reason you have given for ROMM assessment in 315? This includes consideration of inherent risk, its characteristics, and control risk, failure of the control. Okay. Let us take these examples and understand this example. Now, imagine you have got something called a GST receivable. Yeah, this is my own invention, students. Please understand this example. I might have told somewhere in some forum, but please go through this example to understand what they are trying to tell. You have got a GST receivable, you have got debtors receivable, you have got stock. All the amount are same, 1 crore, 1 crore, 1 crore. So when you sign the balance sheet, have you signed this is true and fair, true and fair, true and fair? Yes. Now, how did you get that evidence that this is true and fair? So every audit starts, because we are into risk-based audit. Okay. We are going to talk about something called a risk-based audit. So risk-based audit always starts with the basic question: what can go wrong? What can go wrong? What do you mean by what can go wrong? What is the business risk associated with this GST receivable? What do you mean by business risk? Money. What is the other phase of business risk? Inherent risk. What is inherent risk? Accounting. Now you tell me, students, in the balance sheet, the client is showing GST receivable 1 crore, but they are not aware that this is not allowed. The moment they apply tomorrow with the department for refund, what department will say? Department will say this GST is not refundable because this input tax credit is not allowed. Now tell me, overnight, have you not lost 1 crore rupees? This is called business risk, because you are going to lose that cash. You're not going to get a refund. Now tell me, who is going to get affected because of this? The business, the organization. Will the auditor will get affected? Yes. Why? Because the other effect of this business risk is inherent risk. Now you tell me, students, is NAFRA or ICA is not going to ask you, look Baba, you have studied GST, IDT is part of your syllabus, you have studied input tax credit. The management might have shown this GST receivable and the balance sheet, but when you have audited it, have you complied with SA 250? Is this particular, have you obtained sufficient appropriate evidence whether the compliance with the law has been done? Yes, you say yes. Don't you know that when this GST input tax credit is not available, how did you permit the management to show this as receivable in the balance sheet? You should have suggested them to charge to the P&L account. See, this is the accounting implication of this GST not getting received. Now, is this risk is high or low? This risk is low today, high in 2017. Please understand, because it environment has changed. In 2017, GST Act came for the first time. Then this risk of input tax credit getting disallowed was very high because of the confusion. But today it is low. Okay, let us talk to the debtors. What is the risk with the debtors? Bad debt. When the debtor who has taken money is not going to receive, is it a business risk? Yes. Will the organization going to cry? Yes. Will you cry? Yes. Why? Because associated with the business risk is the inherent risk. What is that? If the debtor is not going to give the money, are you not supposed to make sufficient reserve for bad debts? Yes, that is an accounting implication of bad debt. So now tell me, is this debtor's risk of bad debt is high or low? Sir, from the time immemorial, that's why we always say kottava kodangi in Kannada. From the time immemorial, the risk of bad debt is very high for every loan you have given. Chalo, understood. Third, stock. What is the business risk associated with the stock, sir? The business risk is this stock might have become obsolete and nobody is aware. Chalo. What is the inherent risk associated with it? If a stock is becoming obsolete, as per Ind AS 2, I am not supposed to value it at cost. I should have valued it as NRV and charged that impairment to P&L account. So this is an accounting implication. Now tell me, students, is this risk of becoming obsolete or business risk or inherent risk high or low? We will assume it is high, assuming it is a tech-oriented product. Okay, so you are in SA 315. You are trying to understand the entity, environment, and the environment, and you figured out that the inherent risk is low, high, high. Then you will understand the components of internal control and ask questions to the management, like what type of controls they have established, because risk assessment process, management also might have done. No, they also know that input tax credit they may lose, debtors may not pay. See, they are not thinking from accounting point of view. They are thinking from hard cash point of view. And do you think they wish to keep the obsolete stock with them? They wanted to get rid of it. So, what type of control the organization would have provided? Definitely, for something which has got low risk, they would have given low control. Since debtors risk is very high, bad debt, they would have given high control, like appointing the gundas, appointing the lawyers, appointing the doing aging from time to time, daily follow-up. Somehow, you figured out that the management is not sensitized with the stock. They are thinking, no, CD technology will remain. So they have given low control on the inventory. Let us assume like this. Now in 315, considering IR and CR, the risk of things going wrong, controls failing. So because you have considered controls now, let me make an assessment of the ROMM, which is IR and CR. And I say ROMM for GST is low. ROMM for debtor is also low. Why, we will discuss. And ROMM for stock is very high. Okay. Now we have gone into SA 330. Here we started 330. First question comes, is it an overall risk? No, sir. It is an assertion level risk because we can pinpoint now GST, debtor, stock. It's not that I don't know anywhere. I know exactly what type of risk, bad debt, input tax credit not available, stock becoming obsolete. We know exactly which risk it is. Fine. Second question, what it says in deciding your nature further procedure. First, you identify the reason for the assessment you have given to ROMM. Okay, at 315 level, you said ROMM for GST is low. Why? Is it because of IR element or is it because of the CR element? You say, sir, it is because of its characteristics. Because of its characteristics. Because of its very inherent nature, the risk is low. Like imagine there is a student or that Kim Peek, who can read 2 books at the same time. Imagine if you are that person, what is your inherent risk? And your IQ is 200. Then you would not have been listening to me, first of all. Huh? If your IQ is 200 and you have got an ability to read 2 books at the same time, then you are wasting time now listening to me. So because such students, the IQ, for such students, the risk is very low. Now tell me why? Why should I seek now? Because for them, one glance is sufficient. They can write essay on that. Then the controls are low. So such students, maybe you may find such students roaming, enjoying the marriage function. That's why students never ever compare. Okay, my friend is not studying, I am also not studying. Just by watching this revision lecture, they got 40. Don't get into that business. We don't know them. Who are they? What is their background? They may have a deep background. For them, one glance may be sufficient. Have you measured their IQ now? The one who got 40 marks or 50 marks just by watching one video lecture or revision lecture. Have you measured their IQ? Have you measured the luck factor in the examination? No. So that way, never ever make such assumptions and conclusions that with this, okay, I can this. No. Such things don't exist actually. That's why we say that, sir, this reason of low assessment we have done because of its characteristics. Now I'll ask you one more question. Why did you say ROMM is low for debtor? Sir, ROMM is low for a debtor not because of its characteristics, because of its control. Since the management has given high control, the ROMM has come down. Otherwise, no, inherent risk is very high. You see this example. Inherent risk is exactly high because management has not given any control. The risk has become very high. Like for example, some student is totally new, brand new. They don't know anything. Whatever. They know, they don't know, their IQ may be low, whatever it is. You know, there is one person. I don't remember his name. In the story, it comes. One student goes to a sir to learn something. Then sir looks at his hand and say, you don't have Vidya Rekha only, so you will not learn anything in the life. Now, you see, this is inherent risk. For him, no, inherent risk is very high. I am not remembering his name, Baba. He become Mahavidwan. You may be searching. Maybe if I remember, I will tell you. Go to that story. The boss, Guru says, look, you don't have Vidya Rekha in your hand. How you will learn? For you, Vidya to never get inside your head. Then he asked, sir, Guru, what is Vidya Rekha? How it looks like? Guru told his hand, look, this is Vidya Rekha. It should be like this. You know what he did? He took one knife, he cut his hand and said, look, that Rekha has come. Now Guru laughs at him. But you know, students, what he did is, he put extreme efforts. When his risk was very high of not learning, he compensated with the complete effort. This is what this guy says. Who is that? Our Thomas Alva Edison. Your 1% is inspiration, 99% is perspiration. The one who can definitely bet is the one who is disciplined. We can bet on those people. This is what he says. Everybody says. So with the discipline, with the controls, you are able to bring that risk low. That means today, no bad debts are happening in your organization. It is not because debtors are not risky. Debtors are risky everywhere. Because the level of controls you use, the level of follow-up you do, the level of assessments you do is such a fantastic. That's where your NPA is very low in your organization. HDFC Bank. You go to Nationalist Bank. See, are there not same debtors? Given an opportunity, do you think debtors want to pay money? Okay. Stock. You see, the stock risk was very high. that Vidyaneka don't exist. This person also not tried to study. And ultimately risk is very high. Similarly, stock, no management didn't give any control. So why risk is very high? Because of the low control and the high risk. This is the reasons you are attaching. Now comes, what audit procedure should you do? This is what they say, that the procedure what you choose, test of control or substantive procedure, should be connected to the risk. Now, what you should do, see, you are given only two choices, substantive procedure or analytical procedure. What you will choose? So where is choice here? If I have to test the control, there should be some controls existing, no? So you have to do 100% substantive audit. But here you have got two procedures called a test of detail, substantive, analytical procedures. We've already discussed what it is yesterday. And there you can make a choice. Should I do GST receivable? Should I go through the GSTR, GSTR 3B and other reports, tax challenge and all see, or should I take the percentage of sales and see audit is complete? That you decide. Because here there is no risk only, no control, no control. Then you have to do substantive audits. Second, when you talk about a debtor, see, debtor, inherent risk is very high, but the controls have reduced that risk to a low level. Now, the reason is because of the control. No? So, what auditor should do? More test of controls, less substantive procedure. That means try to trust. If somebody is very disciplined in their life, to as a faculty, you trust them. Try to see that they are doing, what they are doing is fine. You see, automatically things will fall in place. What do you need to focus? Where there is a risk. This concept is called risk-based audit. So, as an auditor, when there is no risk, you don't do much of debtors. Don't be behind debtors, because in this organization NPA is very low because of the rigorous follow-up. So you don't go behind that NPA. Look into some other area, because risk has been already addressed with the control. Your audit risk is very low. But look at this organization where your risk is very high because of the low control. Okay. So what do you need to do? So will you test the control? Absolutely no. Why? Because there is no control only. So again, you have to do 100% substantive audits here. So now you tell me, here also risk is okay. Among the three, which one you will test now? Substantive. See, I have to do substantive procedure here also. But since the risk is low, you may take one sample. Your risk is very high. You will take 50 samples. And you will do physical verification. You will do the testing. You will do the calculation. Why? Because you don't trust the organization. But here what happens? No, here you will take only 2 samples for the data, and you will take 5 samples for the controls. You randomly verify. You see how beautiful, students. You being one auditor, you may have 100 clients. How beautifully you have done the audit with the risk-based audit. How much efforts you have saved. Okay. So because here risk is not addressed with the control. Then they speak about, anyhow, this is not much relevant for you. Then how do you design the test of control? Okay. Auditor, you may say that if you decide to depend upon the operating effectiveness, that means you should have the belief. You should do the test of control only when you believe they are effectively done. The nature of the controls, extent of the control. Can you rely on the work of the previous audit? Like for example, in the intermediate, you have studied very well. I know you. Who are you? What type of discipline you are? So can I rely on that your intermediate efforts and not to test you this time? This is what they said. What you can do if your previously your controls were very good. Okay, to what extent you should be doing the test of controls. And then comes substantive procedure. You have got 2 types of substantive procedure for test of detail and analytical procedures. Test of details has got test of transaction and test of balance. I can say more like your vouching and verification. Okay, vouching is for your P&L transactions. You check the purchase voucher, you verify it. Test of balance is more for your balance sheet items. You do the physical verification. Okay, I can say something like doing mock test is like test of details. Arey Baba, so much effort of mine will go in paper evaluation. Substantive analytics is very simple. Collect some figures and try to connect the relationships. Okay, in MCQ you got this much, in this much you got, in homework you got this much. Okay, done. That's like substantive analytical shortcut. Okay, so finally we may have a risk of overstatement or understatement. Now, substantive audit procedure, so you say how to design, what is perform external confirmation, prepare closing. Okay, identify the substantive procedure for significant risk. Like in SA 540 also we had, if you have got a significant risk or substantive procedure you need to perform, and you finally evaluate. So this is all about, you see students, entire 1.5 hours went in having a review, and I hope you must have been very thorough now, understood very clearly what these concepts talk about. Based on these concepts, today we will discuss this chapter. And you see, we will be much faster. And we will see their tricks and techniques, what IC is trying to do, how they are trying to confuse you. No problem. But we will go through. But before that, I want to, today evening class, before we start, I want you to read the content. And those students who are doing online recorded lectures also, you please study this study material, and then you see now how fast we can complete, how we will understand it. Thank you.